John L. Gardner v Paul Sykes. So the bookies odds. So this is something I researched years ago. So the fight was 1979, June the 26th, I think it was, 1979. And the bookies, so at that point, John L. Gardner, the Hackney Rock, so he was the champion, he was the British champion, he was the Commonwealth champion, and of course he would go on to become the European champion and Muhammad Ali's #1 mandatory. Mickey Duff got John £16,000, I think he told me, to basically stand aside for so Ali could fight. There was a Trevor Berbick, or it might have been Larry Holmes, I can't remember. But yeah, John L. Gardner was the favourite. But this might shock some people, but so for that fight, John L. Gardner was 6-5, and Paul Sykes was 8-13. Now, you know, well, it was a record. So Sykes fought for the British and the Commonwealth, which was a record held for over 40 years until the other week when Fraser Clark fought Fabio Wildley for the exact same titles. I never thought that record would have ever been broken, but it was equalled at least. But Sykes, who he'd only had 8 contests at that point, but the reason the bookies had him the favourite was, so the fight before, John L. Gardner had been on the floor against a very light punching Billy Aird. I think out of his 26 wins, he only had about 7 knockouts. And although John L. Gardner did win that fight, he was on the floor. So by that point, Paul Sykes had knocked out the devastating puncher, which was Neville Mead, Welsh guy, sadly died a couple of years back. And Neville Mead was he was a bit like your Wayne Alexander type. You know, Neville Mead had 120 fights and 18 of them by knockout. Monstrous puncher. And he hit Sykes so hard in the 3rd round that he completely done a U-turn. And done well to just get up. So let alone, you know, get up and knock Mead out in the 5th. So that was a hell of a statement, particularly as Neville Mead went on to win the British 3 years after that, against an Irish guy. Oh God, forgot his name. But yeah, so that was the reason why the bookies had. So Paul Sykes was 8-13 for that fight, and John L. Gardner was 6-5. And I mean, I did speak to John a couple of years back, and even John's own brother had doubts. You know, kind of the one thing about Sykes, although he wasn't, you know, massively experienced in the professional ranks, he could really hit. You know, and basically, had he beaten John L. Gardner, so the plan was he was going to fight Leon Spinks after that, and then if he'd have fought if he'd have beat Leon Spinks, he'd have fought Larry Holmes. So that was the plan. They were really gonna basically frog march him, you know, because of his age at that point. I think he was 33, which was ancient then. It's not like today, you know, 40 years on, all the strength and conditioning you can do. So that was, you know, Gardner was 26 and Sykes was they'd just gone 33. So one of John L. Gardner used to call him, "I'm not going to lose to an old man." I think there was only something like 6.5 years between them. But yeah, Sykes was the red hot favourite, 8-13, and John L. Gardner was 6-5. And that was the reason why, because Gardner was on the floor against the light punching Billy Aird. So a lot of the boxing writers, a lot of the experts thought Sykes was going to absolutely steamroll him. I think Boxing News, I've got a copy, or I've read it. And basically they said Sykes early, or John L. Gardner later on. You know, Sykes was not expecting the fight to go the 4th round, because that fight was 50-50, you know, for the first 3 rounds, and then Gardner basically, John Spencer said to me, he said Sykes told him several times, he said, I wasn't expecting to be there the fourth round. When you see some of the weather, the thing he had to weather, all that, the heavy punches. So when Sykes was there for the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, he was clueless basically, and that's why he turned his back. But make no mistake about that. Before the fight, the bookies had Sykes quite a bit of a favourite, and it was expecting. They were basically expecting Gardner early night and a knockout, but of course it wasn't to be. And John went on to win the European title, and very sadly never got his shot at the world title. But that's another story.